Namaste.
Mm.
My name is Todd Norian. I'm the founder of Ashaya Yoga, and I'm so delighted to introduce Joann Engelberth, who's going to be teaching the social justice and anti-racism for yoga teachers. And that is a workshop open to all teachers, body workers, healers, and it's on February 5th, 2022 from 2 to 3:30. And I'll give more information about the workshop at the very end. But I just wanted to introduce you all to Joann. She's a great person. She has so much depth and wisdom and experience. She's a graduate of the Ashaya 200 hour and 300-hour teacher training. And she's gone on to do so many other trainings. And she's a certified TRE provider, which is a tension and trauma release
Release
exercise.
exercise. Yeah.
Okay, that's great. And many other things. So um, I just wanted to start with saying hi to you and thanks for being here. And I would love to hear a little bit about you and like what's your story and how did you get interested in yoga and then the social justice work
Mm.
that you do.
hmm Yeah. So yoga started tugging at me in my 20s, early 20s, and I found Ashtanga yoga and really enjoyed that very vigorous kind of practice. And then when I became pregnant, I was looking for, um, a different kind of practice, and I was introduced to the funny breathing and the oming, and I was like, "What's going on here?" So I went into fitness for a long time. And then I became quite sick in 2012 and returned to yoga and found immense healing and powerful community there and teachings that are really timeless and supportive for really all the challenges of being human. So I fell in love with yoga and have really immersed myself in the practices and the teachings and continue to study and practice deeply. And I became interested in social justice really from a young age. As a child, I really could see what was going on and what was fair and what wasn't fair. Um, what was being, coming in through the television, the kinds of programming. And I often rooted for the underdog. That was just kind of the way that I was. And I often found myself the underdog as well. And then in college, I studied psychology and sociology, where I was really immersed in the social milieu of challenge, the social structure and the kind of pain and, what was going on. And I learned at that time, which was quite a long time ago, about my own inherent racism. Just being a white person living in the United States with our particular history and, swimming in the waters we swim in that are, founded in that kind of ideology. And I also had no idea what to do with it. It seemed like the only thing to do was to get out on the street and march. And I didn't really see myself as an activist in that way. It didn't feel approachable to me. So I went to sleep on that issue, poured my energy into, women's issues. And then I had a family and built a business and was really very much in my individual self for quite some time, a decade, 15 years or so, and not paying attention. I live in white Vermont, and my privilege allowed me to not have to engage.
Mm.
And then during the pandemic, when over 150 Black and brown bodies, men, women, and children, were killed by police in this country, I started having a lot of very big responses, emotional and physical, and I had to act. It wasn't a choice anymore.
Mm.
And fortunately, I also came upon the work of Resmaa Menakem. So he wrote a book called My Grandmother's Hands. And what he teaches and calls for is this work of somatic abolitionism, which is where I think yoga teachers really can step into this work. And it really takes the shift into embodied anti-racism work, that we're taking in the whole person, head, heart, mind, body, and the social structure in which they find themselves in. And my role as a yoga teacher and as a trauma healing provider and working, with bodies, I have the tools and the skills to engage at this level. And so it felt like a real gift.
Mm. That's so great. And it's interesting that you came upon this at a young age and then you pursued it a little and then it went to sleep and then it came out again. And that's so
Mm,
great for you to find yourself and find your authentic voice
mm,
and to
mm,
come upon a system where you work with the whole person, body, mind, and heart is right in line with tantric teachings and in line with
mm,
Ashaya yoga, that it's yoga for, the whole self. And yet, this piece of social justice is so often missing from the yoga community in general, but perhaps in other healing communities. So I think it's very, very important work, which is why I want to bring you into the Ashaya community, to the teacher specifically, but just for everyone, so that we can have an experience of where we are inside ourselves with our identity and in relation to um, the system that you were talking about, because I myself, it's like a fish swimming in an ocean. It's like we're not aware that we're swimming in the ocean of racism until
mm,
we have some kind of epiphany, an awakening, or someone like yourself comes and helps us have the introspection so we can find and how to even do that work without shaming ourselves in doing it. Like, when I first discovered, I mean, much like you said you discovered that you were swimming in the system of racism, that I
mm,
too had that same awareness and I made different changes and I said, oh, I just want to wake up to this. I did a little study, not half as much as you.
mm.
Um, but so, what can you tell us about the importance of social justice awareness for this profession as yoga teachers?
Yeah. Well, as yoga teachers, we practice and offer our teachings in the social sphere, in relationship, in community, and in this wider culture. And we take a responsibility for offering a very holistic experience, body, heart, mind. We're working with people's physical bodies, with their spiritual hearts, with their emotional and psychological selves, and that's a really big responsibility. And when we look at some of the statistics and recognize that 70% of the adult U.S. population has experienced some kind of trauma in their lifetime, we really want to recognize the even bigger picture that most marginalized folks are dealing with these traumas daily. It's active survival for them. And this somatic abolitionist work invites that collective healing that will come through our bodies and in community. And so we have a real opportunity as yoga teachers to really shift this and support the shift in us awakening to this shadow of racism. Yeah.
Mm. Wow. Yeah, that's really, really important. So let me ask you this, like, the workshop is going to be an hour and a half. It's not a huge amount of time,
Mm-hmm.
but what's one or two things that you hope to offer, or what do you hope to awaken in us as yoga teachers through the process? And maybe give us a sense of how, like, how you're going to do that, and what's like one example maybe of an exercise that we'll be doing to help us understand more fully. Because my impression is that in becoming social justice aware or anti-racist aware, trauma sensitive aware, that it's going to expand our capacity to reach out to more people. And I think just the sense of safety, like as yoga teachers, we're providing an environment. And like I always want to make sure everyone feels safe in the environment. And so I think things like my language and different ways that I'm habitual, like I'm um, comfortable expressing myself, may actually be like an expression out of the system. Like I'm not
Mm,
sure. That's why help. Like what are
right.
we going to gain from coming to your workshop? Tell us.
Right, right. Well, I really look at it. So the calling that came clear to me in this work was to bring this conversation into my white spaces, my primarily white spaces. And that was, I was noticing was my yoga communities. And I have diversified that and, as well. But it's this shift from calling somebody out to calling them in, right? Ashaya and yoga, this is a heart path. And so it's about creating the communal space to be with the discomfort that's going to arise, in doing this work and having these new epiphanies and these new awakenings. And then how do we hold space for the emotions that arise without checking out? Because a lot of the times it's going to be grief, shame, and guilt, some of the most powerful, emotions that we want to really create space for ourselves to be in that and to move through that so that we can act, so that we can do the thing that our heart is actually calling us to do. So I'm really excited about offering kind of the threads of the interconnection between the teachings and practices of yoga, how they support and heal trauma in general. And this is what we're doing in uncovering the shadow of racism as U.S. citizens, is the shadow work of this dysfunctional family that we live in, and we want to all grow up together, right? Like I have really a bright vision for where this work can take us, and so really connecting not just yoga but Ashaya in particular, the 4 E's and the 3 A's, and how that really helps us walk this path. And then I'll walk the path in a way actually that is more human, right? I want to emphasize more inclusive and more equitable. And so introducing the problem, let's name what we're looking at, and then an exercise to help you identify where your social identity and where you sit in power, privilege, advantage, whatever language you want to use, as the shade of your skin living here at this time and in this place. And then an exploration of the trappings of white culture, like what just happened to create what is this milieu of the ways that we show up that not only harm Black and brown bodies on a regular basis, but harm us as well, right? Things like perfectionism, like rugged individualism, like avoidance, very common. We're taught to not feel our feelings, to be strong and stoic, right? This kind of thing. And if we're not processing and moving that through our bodies, then we're in our defenses. We can't really come into this space and open our hearts. So, informationally, to get that kind of vision, and then a somatic exercise, a video or music or something that's going to connect you to this, to the embodied experience of racism in America. And then to track that and really notice, because this is the work of somatic abolitionism, noticing the vibes, noticing the emotions that arise, the sensations, the images, the thoughts, and the meanings that you make up about it. And then, to really bring in what yoga is teaching us to do, manage the paradox of being divine and human, of being substance and spirit. Right. How do we hold our hopes around anti-racism and our fears, right? How do we do both? And then going forward, what are the challenges and what are the joys, right, in engaging in this work? So yeah, that's what I hope to accomplish in our time together.
Yeah, that sounds really wonderful. I'm very excited about it. And in a way, like what you're saying is, and this is what I teach also in the yoga, is the process is bringing the shadow into the light. And so we need to understand the system and the shadow, and as you said, the dysfunctional family of being a U.S. citizen, let's say, of this country, and so many histories, not just ours. And then to bring that forward and to bring the shadow into the light such that we can make better choices. And it's like embracing the full spectrum of who we are, shadow and light. If we can't embrace this sort of new awareness, for me just has been so much in the media of anti-racism, then we're really owning more of ourselves. We're owning back. We're taking responsibility. And
Mm.
of course, that all leads to a happier, fuller, more deeply expressed and meaningful life, which, we don't want to just survive. In Ishaya, we want to shift from survival to thrive, like from survive to thrive, and then from thrive to create. And I think
Yeah,
that's doing beautiful work, helping us to move through those stages to thrive and create a better world. So,
exactly. Yeah.
is there anything else you'd like to say? Any last little bits of inspiration or
Mm.
reflection?
Um, I think that, I like this, shifting from that survival to thriving, right? And how the practices and how the community of yoga really helps us get to that place. I've lived that experience in my journey, with Ashaya and with yoga. And in doing that, in staying with the practice, in sadhana, in making the space to feel, in processing, digesting emotions, feeling the energy leaks. We're all about the energy body in tantra.
Mhm.
That's what creates the spaciousness, so that there's a container, so that we can create the change that's more equitable, that's more inclusive, that can. And then as teachers, you are able to hold space for so many more people in the world.
Mhm.
um, yeah, it's very
Yeah,
powerful. So
yeah. Like
I'm
as
lit up.
we You are totally, and as we heal ourselves, then we're able to hold space for others. And if we deny
Mm-hmm,
or avoid even looking at the issue of
mm-hmm,
racism, then we're denying our capacity to hold space for someone else. Like we're only going to be able to hold space of healing for someone else to the degree that we've done that for ourselves inside. And
yeah,
this is such a beautiful process. And there's another
mm-hmm,
component in the Ashnaya teacher training anyway that I'm calling leadership training. And this is one of those segments that, hey, as leaders, we need to expand our awareness and bring that the shadow of the system that we've been brought up in
mm-hmm,
into the light to make us more holistic. So,
exactly.
Joanne, thank you so much for your passion, your insights, and just the inner strength that I see in you to do your own personal work and then bring it forward into your life where you see it's needed. It's really inspiring.
Mm-hmm,
And I think this workshop is really going to benefit not only all yoga, I think every yoga teacher should have this, but body workers, healers, physical therapists, like anyone who's sort of in healing profession
mm-hmm,
to expand awareness in this way. So, um, and for those watching, if you want to learn more about this, please go to ashayayoga.com and you can click on online courses. It's all going to be online, live online. And again, the workshop is social justice and anti-racism for yoga teachers.
mm-hmm.
And February 5th, it's a Saturday, I believe, and it's from 2 to 3:30. So I hope to see everybody there. And Joanne, thank you so much for your presence and this really exceptionally good work that you're doing in the world.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you. Wonderful.
Namaste.
Mm-hmm.